This cannot happen. In a season filled with embarrassing blowout victories, the Philadelphia 76ers found a way to raise the bar once again and produce their most embarrassing loss of the year. In just the 11th game all season in which Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George all shared the floor together, they did not stand a single chance from start to finish in this game as a hungry, youthful Detroit Pistons team came out and punched them in the mouth in a way that the Sixers had no answer for. I'm going to break down what exactly went wrong and how we're walking away with the biggest headline of this game being Kelly Oubre and Jr. and Joel Embiid basically needing to be separated on the bench after a dispute for neither one of them getting back in transition. But let's talk a little bit about the game as well as where the clear themes and issues with this team are diving into. So to get into it as a whole, it was a 125-112 loss, and I will say the game was not nearly as close as the score indicates. To break this down as sort of a by-quarter comparison here, that the Pistons outscored the Sixers 42-27 in the first quarter, built up a 15-point lead there, then further expanded it 36-22. They outscored the Sixers in the second quarter, so a 29-point lead at halftime. Absolutely embarrassing stuff in the first half, and that starts right at the top with the big fella, the former MVP himself, Joel Embiid, being held to 3 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 of 9 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. This was the fewest amount of points he scored in the first half of a game since 2020, and by my eyes, the least amount of shooting touch that I may have ever seen from Joel Embiid. Even the shots that he was missing were completely off the mark. He fell into his bad habits of trying to get to the free throw line, trying to foul hunt, and it really was the effort level from top to bottom that was the story of this team. And the biggest theme that popped up in was this little spat between Kelly Oubre and Joel Embiid. So to pull this up here, we first see the clip that originated it, that this is neither one of these guys getting back in transition, kind of a lazy effort from Joel as Kelly Oubre had kind of jogged to get in that position. They head over for the timeout here, and this is where we see the action start to come down. That we don't know what initiates this, but we see Joel Embiid and Kelly Oubre kind of at each other's necks here. We see Joel sort of imitating the jog back from Kelly, and I love this fight from Kelly. This is what I want to see from Kelly Oubre Jr. He has every single right to give it to Joel Embiid for a guy who has been in and out of this lineup all season, and Oubre, to his credit, has been a hard hat guy, that he has grinded on the floor, brought it every single night. And the fact that these guys care is the biggest positive to me. That's what I was questioning watching this Sixers game. Is there a pulse to this team? Is this completely over? Is this, like Daryl Morey said, that we can squint and still act like this is a championship contending team? And for the exact quote for Morey, he said when facing the media for the first time since the trade deadline today, quote, "We're just focused on winning a championship, and I know you have to squint a little, but we feel like this group can do it." Now, after watching today's game, do I feel like that is the case? Absolutely not. It was maddening to watch, one of the more embarrassing performances of the entire season, and as I mentioned, that is a high bar to clear. There is a lot of data that we have at this point for what an embarrassing loss is for the Sixers team, and I do think this one very well may take the cake. Now, what they have to save this a little bit? It was a competent second half. I saw a little bit of effort, a little bit of fighting, but the reality is this is a theme with this Sixers team. Not just this year, for years now to this point, there is this vibe of arrogance, of overconfidence, of believing we're the more talented team, so we're just going to win this basketball game. And that never works at the NBA. It just straight up does. That every single player in this league, the top 15, the top 18, if we want to include two-way contracts on every single roster, are the best basketball players in the entire world. Each of these guys, whether it is Malik Beasley or Jalen Duren or Tobias Harris, who was given the Sixers team buckets tonight, these guys can play hoops. So if you don't show up and bring your best effort, a team is going to punch you in the mouth, and that is exactly what happened tonight. And for the Sixers team directly here, what grounds do you have to stand on that you have this vibe of overconfidence? You are not a team that has a championship in your back pocket. You are not a dynasty holding on. You're not the Lakers. You're not the Warriors. You're not a team that has had the success that has reached the mountaintop. This is a team that continually is kicked down upon for years upon years, yet they continue to carry this vibe of we're just going to win because we're the Philadelphia 76ers. And that does not work, man, and it did not work tonight. Now, as far as a couple other things that I did want to pull up with here directly, did want to start, of course, with the Morey quote today, which I think looks especially worse after this, that I understand the premise for what Daryl Morey is going for here, that there is no clear way to upgrade the roster outside of each of these guys getting healthy and playing together. But what was the lesson I saw tonight is that there is not this chemistry. There is not this ability to flip the switch in the way that I think this team is intending on doing. This team needs to go through the fire. They need to learn how to play together. Bring in new additions like Quentin Grimes, who, by the way, played very well tonight. Had some nice moments. So coming off the bench, he played 28 minutes there, had 14 points, shot 2 of 5 from the field, or from 3 there, 5 of 9 from the field overall. Thought he looked pretty good moving off ball. Certainly not super comfortable in the way that he looked in the lineup, but that's still a step in the right direction and getting him on the floor and seeing a purpose. You see the willingness from him as a shooter, which will be a storyline. It is going to be interesting to see how all these pieces fit together. There was no Gershon Yabusele tonight, which obviously is a story here, but the Sixers straight up cannot afford to lose too many more of these games. To take a peek at the standings, this was a valuable opportunity to get a victory over a team in front of you. And I did not even mention to this point that the Detroit Pistons were without their all-star tonight. Cade Cunningham, a late scratch for this game, and Jaden Ivey has already been ruled out. So I probably wouldn't throw Ivey all the way up to that second best player, but I would say two of their comfortable top 5 players not being on the floor tonight, with Cade Cunningham being the far and away top player on this Pistons roster. With him not there and you still not having a pulse is embarrassing for the Sixers team. Now, to look at the standings as a whole, I've kind of talked myself into this. Sixers backing their way in the playoffs more out of default than belief in this team. When looking ahead, the Chicago Bulls obviously shipped off Zach LaVine at the trade deadline, that it feels like they're a little bit closer than the tank. That is an organization that operates in absolute mediocrity there, and it's pretty comfortable just sitting right around 500 for the length of the season. But they're 22-30 overall this season, and guess what? That is better than the Sixers, who are now 11 games below 500, a game and a half past below the Bulls there. And if you want to climb there, if that is the goal, to get in the play-in tournament, to squint and consider yourself a championship contender, that the Cavs don't want to see the Philadelphia 76 in the first round. If that is the mentality here, you cannot afford to sleepwalk through games like that, and that is exactly what it continues. Now, when talking about fixing this issue, as I mentioned, this is not the first year that we've seen this. This is a Joel Embiid thing. This starts from the top. And when that is the case here, as Tyrese Maxey pointed out and it went public very much earlier this year, it starts with your habits, Joel. And that's what we saw tonight. And to play this clip one more time, I'm not excusing Kelly Oubre, who did certainly jog a little bit, but look at the defensive effort from Joel Embiid, man. And for this overall premise here, I understand the point of there not being enough effort. In fact, I'm in agreement. But if we're going to make an example out of a guy, Kelly Oubre Jr. is just not that dude. This is a guy who does put on the hard hat, who does compete, who has been available on basically an every night basis and done his job as a high level. Is Kelly Oubre Jr. a guy that decides winning on a scale of box score impact? No. But what does he do? He competes defensively. He brings something to the Sixers team. And those are a lot of things that you straight up can't say about Joel Embiid on the season. So I'm happy that altercation happened. I'm happy that they're at least showing that they care a little bit, that there is that level of communication. But this only works if this team can figure it out together, can play at a regular rate, and try to figure out, what can we build from here on out? Is it likely that they can turn around the season, that they can provide any sort of spark from a postseason standpoint? Frankly, no. I don't see the world where that is really the likely case right now. And for Paul George specifically, I'm not letting all this noise fly above it. Let's take a little bit of these stats on the season. First, I did want to highlight Kelly Oubre Jr., who is averaging 14.3 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 1.9 assists. I know he's shooting 29.1% from the field, but I've gained a ton of respect for Kelly Oubre Jr. this year. As I mentioned, a hard hat guy, and that's so opposite of kind of the perception, or I guess reputation of him when coming to Philadelphia. This guy buckles up, straps up defensively, and brings something to the Sixers team, and that's really not a lot of what I can say for this Sixers roster. Now, to look at the box score a little bit, the biggest issue with this game overall, the Sixers are built on having 3 stars. That only works when your stars play like stars, and none of them did tonight. For Joel Embiid specifically, 7 of 18 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. Also had, I felt like more than that, only 2 turnovers there. The 23 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists there. Tyrese Maxey snapped the streak of 28-plus scoring games that he was held to 27 tonight. I thought Maxey was okay, certainly the best of the 3 stars that there were tonight, but there were flashes where he didn't look particularly good either. 9 of 20 from the field, and then Paul George is really where the bulk of my frustration will go here. 14 points on 6 of 10 shooting. There simply cannot be games where Paul George is only attempting 10 shots. You're paid to be the third guy, man. And I understand taking a step back to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, but there's a lot of possessions where the Sixers are praying for someone to step up and pick up some offensive responsibility, and Paul George is nowhere to be found, man. So I understand your little pinky finger hurts. I understand that you're not your 100% version of yourself, but it just has to be better than this. And unless that is the case, this is who the Sixers are to this point. This is a challenge to the Sixers here. That is on you internally. That has been the message of the entire season. Do I think the Pistons are a better basketball team than the Philadelphia 76ers? No, I don't. From a pure talent perspective, the Sixers should win these games. But until they have a sense of urgency digging at them, until they have a desire to get on the same page, they've started to sculpt out what these roles are and figure out how to play together, this team stands no chance whatsoever. So the level of urgency simply better be better from here on out. That we cannot have these sleepwalk starts. You cannot be outscored in the first quarter of a game 42-27. The best offensive rating that the Pistons had in the first half of entire year. They did that without Cade Cunningham is what happened tonight. So for the Sixers, this better be a wake-up call. To me, this was worse than that Denver Nuggets loss, which did spark a little bit of a turnaround. That they won 4 in a row. That Nick Nurse suddenly ripped into them in the locker room. I hope that happened tonight. I hope those are the conversations that are currently going down between Nick Nurse and the Sixers team because they flat out deserve it there. We will see what the responsiveness is, but boy, what a frustrating loss. And when they were starting to see a little bit of positivity for this team, that's probably the biggest frustration overall. They're just not building momentum. Every time it feels like they're turning a corner, it's another step back. That it feels like you're starting to get a little continuity, guys playing together, another dude injured. You picked up a couple key wins in a row, a bad loss that you had no business dropping that game. That has been the theme of this Sixers season, and that needs to change. You basically are out of time to this point. This is the home stretch of the regular season. We got a little over 30 games to go. 31, I believe, is the exact number there for the Sixers team. So hopefully this is the last time I'm ranting this hard about the Sixers team, but I find it hard to believe that will be the case. So let me know what you guys think in the comments if you're as frustrated as I am. As always, appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.